repeat you once again after the recording is started.
Yes, yes, definitely. Do let me know when the recording starts. Thank you. Thank you. So, in the AECC syllabus, we have three modules. The first module is about communication, its definition and practices. The second thing is verbal and non-verbal communication. The third thing is letter writing and emails. This was the first module. Then in the second module, you have writing your CV or detailed resume. And in the third and final module, you have comprehension. Okay? So is this clear so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. In that sense, today
No,
we will
ma'am.
go on. Huh? You could hear me?
No,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm a little confused. You
Ma'am,
see, we are.
please can you repeat this once?
Of
There is
course, I
some
can
problem
repeat.
for me.
Can you hear me very clearly?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Now
Yes,
I
Yes,
ma'am.
can.
ma'am.
Okay,
Ma'am.
right. So I was talking about the three modules that you have. The first module has communication, its definition and practices, verbal and non-verbal communication, letter writing, and emails. The second module has writing your CV or detailed resume. The third module has comprehension. So, is this clear?
Yes, ma'am. It's clear now.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, okay. So, today we will begin to talk about the first module, which means communication. And I was smiling just a minute ago because there seemed to be a communication gap at the very beginning. You couldn't hear properly, possibly. So, no, that shouldn't deter us. We will go on to discuss communication and the definition and practices and verbal and non-verbal communication, etc. today. And tomorrow at 10:30, we will go on to discuss letter writing, emails, etc. Okay. So the
Ma'am, is
first,
there any
yes,
books? Is there any books related
uh,
to AECC?
uh, if there are any books that you would require, I will write down the names and send them to you. Okay. Don't worry
Okay,
about
ma'am.
the books right now. Okay.
Okay,
Um,
ma'am.
Right. So, when we begin to talk about communication, I know that it is very boring to have a definition at the beginning. So, what I will do is, I will give you a number of situations, and you will tell me what kind of communication is possibly taking place over here and whether it is a kind of communication at all or not. For example, I would begin by mentioning two very simple things. One kind of communication is in terms of speech when we talk to each other. Another kind of communication is suppose you use your hands, you move your hands in a certain way, you look in a certain way, and those are gestures. Gestures. So, speech is verbal communication. You're using your mouth to speak, and gesture might not always be like that. Gesture is a silent kind of a communication, but you are able to convey your emotions to the other person. Hmm? Suppose you're smiling, then the other person will definitely understand that you're happy about something. It's as simple as that. So I'll give you certain situations. Suppose somebody is knocking on your door or pressing the doorbell and it is making a sound. So would you say that this is a kind of communication?
Yeah,
Okay,
ma'am,
I'll
it
give you.
is.
Uh, I will reserve my judgment for a moment and suppose somebody is calling out your name from outside the door and saying, you open the door, please. So these are attempts at communication. If only the person who is within the room opens the door or says, okay, I'm opening the door, I'm coming in a moment, then only there has been complete communication. You have understood and you're responding. So you see, I was trying to give you examples of by knocking on the door or pressing the doorbell, we are talking about non-verbal communication. Whereas when you're calling out the name of a person who is within the room, this is verbal kind of communication that we're trying to establish. Is it clear so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
If
Didi.
at any point of time you have any difficulty in understanding what I'm saying, you will immediately write to me at the chat box. You have a chat box over there, or you will tell me immediately. Okay. I want this to be absolutely clear. Now, so when we are talking about, suppose this visitor comes in by pressing the bell or knocking on the door or calling out your name if you're known to each other, then the visitor comes into the room. What happens after that? What is your way of welcoming a visitor? Suppose you are in the USA and it is a non-COVID situation. There are no diseases involved. And perhaps when the visitor comes in, and if you're thinking of a professional kind of a situation, you shake hands. That is one way of greeting the visitor, right? It will be non-verbal. But then if you say, suppose the visitor comes and says hello, and you say hi, then it will be a verbal kind of a communication. So if the persons are in India, then perhaps you open the door and you do something like namaste, and you fold your hands together in order to greet the person, and the visitor also greets you in the same way, saying namaste or namaskar or whatever. Hmm? So these are ways of, in real life, these are the ways, usual ways in which you say hi, hello, you also know about, as I told you. So these are the ways in which we use verbal and non-verbal communication in so many real life situations. Now, suppose this visitor has come in and you are speaking to the visitor, and usually there are questions and answers. Usually, suppose the visitor, you ask the visitor, are you going to stay here for some time, not in your house, but in the locality or in your city? Suppose somebody is visiting you from another country or another state. So you can definitely ask this question. I hope you're going to stay here for a very long time. And then there will be a kind of an answer. Your visitor might say, no, this time I'm in a hurry and I will just be here for 2 days or 2 months or 2 years or whatever kind of an answer comes to you. Then you go on to think about the answer and you go on to comment on that answer. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that you will all be here only for 2 days or 2 years. That is wonderful. Then we can have a proper friendship eventually. So these might be your comments, but at the same time, you can go on to ask supplementary questions as possible, if possible as well. For example, in this conversation, you can go on to say, oh, then within 2 days, I find you will not possibly be able to see all the places that you should visit over here. And may I show you around? That kind of a supplementary question might come in. So you see, in this way, we are talking about a conversation. This is a very normal conversation in any situation. So I have been trying to give you a few pointers, few examples of both verbal and non-verbal kinds of communication. But remember, I haven't told you what communication is as yet. We will reserve that because we will move on to a few more situations, and then you will tell me what you have understood by the term communication, and then I'll give you the definitions. Okay. So, so far, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes,
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 Didi.
Didi.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now, there are ways in which, because of the difference in culture, because of certain kinds of differences in your perception of the world, certain kinds of problems might arise. Not problems always, but you need to know about a certain number of things. Keep them in your mind when you're trying to communicate with somebody whose culture is unknown to you, for example. Uh, Let me begin with a gesture. Gesture means looking. At this point of time, it will be just looking. The way you look at somebody or you don't look at somebody, right? That is about non-verbal communication. You're not speaking to that person as yet. But what you are doing is, suppose you are in the USA, United States of America, and if you look a person straight in the eye, then they are going to be very happy in the sense that they would consider you to be friendly, straightforward, because this eye contact is being maintained when you speak or when you are listening to somebody. If you don't look at them straight in the eye in the USA, they might think of you as a person who they should suspect. Is this person trying to hide something from us? They might consider you to be untrustworthy, unfriendly, or perhaps they would think that you are not paying any attention to them. What they're talking about, what they're trying to show you, you're not paying attention to them. So you're being very, very inattentive. So when you are communicating with somebody, these gestures are as important as your speech. Now, even in the USA and anywhere in the world, you cannot stare at a person. Stare means looking fixedly at a person, because that is supposed to be rude. If you keep on looking at a person like that, when you're not speaking to each other, you don't even know this person, and you're just looking at this person with a fixed kind of look, it means you are being very, very rude. So when you're speaking, uh, there is one kind of a gesture required. When you are not speaking to that person, there is another kind of a gesture required. Now, in contrast, think of a country like Japan. In Japan, children are taught that in schools that you should not look at the teacher's eyes because that would be rudeness. So, in Japan, if you consider a person to be your superior or uh, a person to whom you should show respect, then you do not look at that person's eyes. You lower your eyes a little. You lower your head a little. That is a mark of respect. That is a gesture which shows respect to the person who is senior to you or is superior to you, say in a country like Japan. Now, I am talking about other countries and we are doing this in English. So we also have to talk about England. Now, in England, if you are supposed to pay complete attention, so if you are looking at the person who is talking to you, then you will look at that person in the sense the person should understand, the speaker should understand that you are not only listening, but listening carefully. And sometimes you're supposed to blink your eyes, shut your eyes and open your eyes, blinking, both eyes, in order to show that you are hearing the speaker's words and you are understanding them as well. Now, what about India? I kept our own country for discussion as well. That will be absolutely necessary, you know. In our country, what happens? You can at least tell me about what happens in our country. So I told you earlier that we say namaste, namaskar, and the more shall I say, sophisticated kind of people earlier at the professional level perhaps would shake hands, etc., etc. That kind of a thing would be possible. But when it comes to looking at somebody in India, what happens?
We smile a bit.
Do you look at a person, stare at a person? Do you look at the person's eyes, or do you lower
We
your eyes and head to a certain extent?
we do a bowing gesture with our head.
Uh, you bow, right? Yes, there are times when you bow in the sense that you are talking about somebody who is your senior or your superior, and in that sense, perhaps you bow when you speak to that person, and you listen like this as well. You don't always stare at that person in the face. So yes, that is quite a possibility. But when you're talking to your friend, you definitely look at the friend's eyes directly. So this was one kind of non-verbal communication, and there are various ways in which uh, uh, let's see. I've just learned that some people, some students cannot hear me properly, and let's see what I can do about it. Just give me a moment. Let's see. Uh, okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, I mean there is another link where people cannot hear me possibly. So can they hear me now? Could they let me know? Uh, In the meantime, shall I go on? I was just trying to give you certain examples from different cultural backgrounds of different countries in order to show how nonverbal communication works in certain cases and it doesn't work in other cases. For example, if you bow your head and don't look at the person in the USA, then the USA people are going to think that you are not listening to them and you're not very friendly or you are not very trustworthy. But in India, if you don't bow your head when you're speaking, suppose to a very superior kind of a person, then that person might think that you are being disrespectful. So, yes, I am trying to say that in terms of non-verbal communication, it is sometimes the gestures that are involved sometimes show respect, sometimes disrespect, depending on the cultural background. These are just examples that I'm asking you to remember. Now, again, this time I'll go on to do a similar kind of an exercise in terms of verbal communication, the speech that we have, the speech that we use in front of each other. Now, you meet somebody and you say hello. That person might say hi, and yes, then perhaps you are not meeting with a friend at all. And this time you're in India. Now, you are meeting this person for the first time in your life, and suppose you go on to use that other person's name. This is a thank you. They can hear me now. Thank you. So, yes. Now, you meet somebody and say hello, and then, okay, this is a professional kind of a situation, and the person might have come from some other country. Do you immediately in India go on to use the person's name? Say
No, ma'am.
Charlie, yes, so
No.
Charlie or Rebecca, and you go on to use their names. Or perhaps this is acceptable in certain other cultures. In the USA, perhaps you will go on to say, yes, Professor Rebecca, and you go on to have your conversation. But in India, it is a little difficult to imagine that you are addressing a teacher or somebody uh, that you know professionally by the first name at the first meeting. So that creates a kind of a difference between different countries, so to say, the practices that you have in different countries. Then again, I'll give you another situation. Suppose somebody is speaking, and would you interrupt and begin to speak?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No. So not
We
only
wait
in
for our
India,
opportunity.
yes, you will have to
Yes,
wait
ma'am,
for
this
the
will be
opportunity,
considered mannerless
definitely.
for us.
Hmm? Yes.
Yes, this would be, if we interrupt in between, like this will be considered as mannerless.
Yes, it will be considered to be very, very rude, not only in India, but anywhere in the world, possibly. You just cannot interrupt a person and begin to speak, whoever you are, whoever the other person might be. Right? Then I'll give you another situation. You meet somebody professionally or on business, strictly business terms, for the first time. And do you immediately begin to say, okay, this is the kind of chart that we have, and this is the business idea, or we should be doing this kind of a project together? Do you really go on to talk about the real business deal or project immediately once you meet the person for the first time in your life? You don't.
No,
No,
So
ma'am.
ma'am. We
there
introduce
is some.
ourselves.
Hmm? Yes.
Ma'am, we introduce ourselves first.
Absolutely right. You have to introduce yourself first. Then there is usually a little bit of, I mean, I hope your journey has been smooth and etc. etc. A few bits of formality, kind of a formal kind of an introduction, a formal kind of even a kind of a conversation which leads to the business discussion and not entering into the business or professional discussion directly. So, yes, introduction would be very important. So, I have given you two kinds of examples so far, one from the world of nonverbal communication, the other from the world of verbal communication. And of course, you understand that they would go together. Hmm. And in this way, I'm trying to tell you about the various kinds of communication that we have, the communication practices, which are good, which are bad. And we also go on to talk about English for specific purposes. I mean, if you are learning about communicative English, communication in English, we are talking about how this kind of a thing is very useful in every country. If you're a native speaker of English, for example, if you were born in England or the USA or Australia or certain parts of Canada, then you would be a native speaker of English. English would be your first language. But in India and other countries, say Latin American countries, where they often use Spanish and other things, or say in France, where they, of course, use French, and in Asian countries, we don't have English as our first language, so we are non native speakers. But even for us, as for them, in professional situations, English is necessary. And if there are students of science over here, I would definitely remind you that yes, there is something called EST, even English for Science and Technology, even. So, yes, we will not go into all those things, but I'm just trying to tell you that there are ways of communicating your ideas to other people. So, you have, I hope you have been able to understand and follow the examples I've given you so far.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Anybody,
Yes,
any
it is.
problem? from any other group as well? I mean, perhaps you find it a little, there is a little time lag in terms of when you try to get in touch with me. If you can write to me, even that will be good.
দিদি অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমি তো বেঙ্গলি মিডিয়াম থেকে পড়াশোনা করেছি, সো ইংলিশটা আমি বুঝতে পারি, বাট বলতে একটু প্রবলেম হয় আর কি।
Okay, so even in Bangla, I can manage to understand Bangla and Hindi, I think. So if you want to tell me anything, you can even speak in Bangla or Hindi, and I will, of course, answer in English, and you will tell me if you have understood it or not. Okay?
ইয়েস দিদি।
Okay. Now, if you have understood these examples and the purpose behind these examples, then I would go on to give you a number of definitions of communication. So I hope you have your pen and paper in front of you. I know this is being recorded, but at the same time, if you want to write this down, you can do so. So yes,
Okay,
I'm
Didi.
going to, yes.
Okay, Didi.
Okay, so if you find this necessary, you can write it down. Now, the first definition I'm going to mention is by John Adair. So, J capital, John, John, and the surname is A capital, Dair, John Adair. John Adair's definition is communication is essentially the ability of one person to make contact with another and make himself or herself understood. I'll repeat. Communication is essentially the ability of one person to make contact with another and make himself or herself understood. So have you been able to আরেকবার বলছি. Okay, communication is essentially the ability of one person to make contact with another and make himself or herself understood. Shall I repeat?
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Complete.
Ma'am,
Uh,
can you repeat the next person?
yes, I will. Communication is essentially the ability of one person to make contact with another and make himself or herself understood. Okay? So, shall I
Ma'am,
explain this? Yes?
ma'am,
I Why don't you write it down? You have a chat box for it. I can't hear you actually. So what
Ma'am,
I'll
this
do is
definition was by which person?
John Adair, John, J capital. Surname is Adair, A capital, Dair. Adair. That is the surname, John Adair. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you analyze this definition, and you will have other definitions as well, don't worry, this is just one of them. Now, in this definition, what is being said is when you are trying to come in touch with another person, you're trying to establish a kind of a contact with another person, and you are trying to make yourself understood. Now, I told you at the beginning, just knocking on the door yes, right. So you have the definition written by Anupriya, uh, with reference to John Adair in a simpler manner, right? So I hope that helps you. I hope you have taken a look at the chat box, all of you,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yes, thank you, Anupriya. And that is what we are trying to say over here, that my point is that when we are talking about establishing contact with another person, and suppose I'm trying to make myself understood by you, now the process will not be complete unless and until you really understand me. For example, I'd given you that non-verbal example of knocking on the door. Now, I might go on knocking on the door for the entire day, but that doesn't mean that you are responding to me. If you don't open the door, if you don't respond by saying, I'm coming in a moment, I'll open the door, who are you, etc., then you have not understood me. You're not listening to me. I can go on knocking on the door, but the process of communication will be not completed because you have not understood me or you have not responded. So you can understand that is what I'm talking about. You are trying to make yourself understood, and only when you are understood by the other person is the process of communication complete. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. So then I will move on to another definition. This definition is by William Newman. William is W capital I double L I A M, William Newman, N capital Newman, William Newman, and Charles Summer, C capital, of course, Charles, Charles, and the surname is S capital Summer, Summer, as in the season, summer. So William Newman and Charles Summer said communication is an exchange of ideas, facts, opinions, or emotions of two or more persons. This is also fairly simple. Communication is an exchange of ideas, comma, facts, comma, opinions, or emotions of two or more persons. Hmm?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
can you
please repeat.
repeat once again?
Yes, of course. Communication is, yes, Rajagopal has written it. See, it's a very dynamic class that you have. Your classmates are quite dynamic, and you get to learn from them as well. This is wonderful communication. Communication is an exchange of ideas, facts, opinions, or emotions of two or more persons. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So, of course, it is. When we are talking about not only, suppose I am trying to uh, make myself understood to you, that is half the story. I should also be prepared to what you are telling me. So it is an exchange. I am telling you something, you are telling me some other thing. Therefore, it is an exchange of what? Exchange of ideas, facts, opinions, or emotions. And I am there. If one person is there standing in front of me, then we are two people. Suppose I am one person speaking to around 650 people. Then there is another kind of communication. Both will be communication. We are really exchanging ideas, facts, opinions, emotions right now. So this is communication, this exchange, right? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So I'll move on to the third kind of definition. This is by Leyland Brown. L capital, Leland, Leland, and the surname is Brown, B capital, Brown, as in the color, Leland Brown. And the definition is communication is the transmission and interchange of facts, ideas, feelings, or course of action. I'll repeat. Communication is the transmission and interchange of facts, ideas, feelings, or course of action. Okay?
Please চেষ্টা করুন।
Yes. In the meantime, yes. Communication, Jyotirmoy. Communication is the transmission and interchange of facts, ideas, etc. Just put commas after facts, ideas, and it will be okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jyotirmoy. Yes, Brojagopal as well. Thank you. So you see your friends are all trying to help you. Very helpful class. Thank you. Now, yes, this one also perhaps you have understood.
Yes, ma'am.
We
Yes, ma'am.
yes, we
Yes,
are
ma'am.
trying to talk about not only transmission. Transmission would mean it reaches out from me to you. But interchange is a very important word in this context because interchange, or in the earlier definition, you had exchange. Interchange or exchange would mean that it is a two-way process. I am able to convey my ideas to you, and you are able to make me understand what you are thinking of. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
yes, see, we have to do the definitions, and there are slight differences between these definitions. In the first one, you are just talking about one person trying to make uh, himself or herself understood to the other person. But in the later definitions, you find that we are talking about both way interchange of ideas, right? So there are differences. Now, the next one is by Alan Lewis, Allen. That is the name, A capital, of course, and the surname is Lewis, L capital, Ouis. Okay. And the definition is communication is the sum, sum, as in mathematics, right? Communication is the sum of all the things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. Full stop. It involves a systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. I'll repeat. Communication is the sum of all the things one person does, semicolon, when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another, full stop. It involves a systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. Yes. Thank you, Brojagopal. I was thinking of who would send it to the class first. So Brojagopal has already sent it to you. Yes?
Okay, ma'am.
Now, thank you, Brojagopal. Right. We are talking about this situation. Bashanta has also sent it. Yes. So communication is the sum of all the things one person does, and one person does would refer to verbal, non-verbal things. And at the same time, why is this being done? The motive is to create understanding of your words and gestures in the mind of another person or other people. And it is done in a systematic manner, and it is a continuous process. Now, if I would just begin with the third module. Say I begin by talking about comprehension. And why on earth are you doing comprehension? You don't get to know about it. You don't get to know about that process of communication being very important, and comprehension would mean that you are trying to read and understand and then write down your response to it in terms of what you have understood so far, etc. Now, without referring to any of these things, I just give you a piece and ask you a number of questions based on that piece. So it will be incomplete communication, I think. So you need not only a continuous process beginning with something simple, going on to the more difficult ideas, it has to be systematic as well. Because when we are talking about communication, if I don't mention communication and go on to comprehension, then I'm not being systematic at all. So systematic as well as continuous processes, these are required, and systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding would be required if you want to make yourself understood to the person, to the other persons at all. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, yes, thank you. Now, the next one is by Ordway Teed. O capital RDWAY. That's the first name, and the surname is T capital EAD. TEAD, that is. Here we learn that communication is a composite information given and received out of a learning experience. In this, certain attitudes, knowledge, and skills change. And then we go on to learn that what kind of things do undergo a change. Those kinds of things which are related to sensitive interacting points of view, leading to a higher level of shared understanding and common intention. Now, this is a little complex. I'll repeat this, or is somebody sending it for your benefit? Because I can't do these two things simultaneously, and I'm very grateful to those who are trying to help.
Mom, please repeat
Communi-
once again.
yes, communication is a composite information given and received out of a learning
Ma'am, excuse me.
experience.
Excuse
Yes,
me, ma'am. This
yes,
is Kritiman. This is
this
Kritiman
is,
calling. Uh,
yes.
I'm yes, ma'am. After Alan Lewis, what was the next person's name? Whose
Okay,
definition you are telling, ma'am? Please.
yes. Ordway
I could
Tate.
not understand. What?
Yes,
What?
listen.
Sorry.
Ordway Tate. I'm going to give you the spelling. Mute
Okay.
yourself and listen to me. O capital ORDWAY, Ordway. And the surname is T capital, that is TEAD, Ordway Tate.
Ortway teat.
ORDWAY, first name,
Yeah.
surname
Yes.
TEAD, D
Okay.
for
Thank you.
Delhi. Okay, okay. Yes, yes. Okay,
Thank you, Anupriya.
Anupriya has written it. Yes, Ordway Tate. And the definition I'm going to repeat again. Communication is a composite information given and received out of a learning experience. In this, certain attitudes, knowledge, and skills change. And I'm leaving out
Ma'am,
something.
communication is a composite.
Communication is a composite information given and received out of a learning experience. Full stop. I'll repeat. Communication is a composite information given and received out of a learning experience. Full stop. Yes, shall I go on with the rest of the definition?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, Boshanto has written it. Communication is a composite of information, etc., etc. Information given and received out of a learning experience. And then in this, certain attitudes, knowledge, and skills change. Then I have left out certain parts. Therefore, I've put 3 dots over there. You know, they look like full stops, but there are 3 in number. And that indicates that you are leaving out certain sections from the quotation. Okay. So, it is like in this comma, certain attitudes, comma, knowledge, comma, and skills change, then 3 dots, and then of sensitive interacting points of view, comma, leading to a higher level of shared understanding and common intention. Okay. Shall I go on to explain this or repeat this?
Ma'am,
Which one?
please repeat after in this certain knowledge, attitudes, and skills change. After that, please, once again,
After
please
that,
repeat.
you put 3 dots, which means I'm leaving out certain sections. Okay. And then after 3 dots, you have of sensitive interacting points of view, comma,
Yes.
leading to, yes, of sensitive interacting points of view, comma, leading to a higher ground level, leading to a higher level of shared understanding and common intention. I'll repeat. After 3 dots, of sensitive interacting points of view, comma, leading to a higher level of shared understanding and common intention. Intention spelling is Intention. If you're looking at Boshanto's writing in the chat box, you will just correct that spelling. Otherwise, thank you, Boshanto. You have given the last part of the definition as well. Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am.
Okay. Clear?
Ma'am, it will be off or often sensitive.
Of, sensitive, that is OF, off, and the next word is sensitive. Okay. Of sensitive interacting points of view, comma, leading to a higher level of shared understanding and common intention. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Please explain this now.
Okay, this sounds a little complicated. I can understand that. Now, it is not complicated basically. It is trying to say that information can come to you in so many ways. For example, I can simultaneously try to speak to you, say, if I'm using the phone, and we are all multitasking all the time, you know that. So I'm using the phone speaking to you. And at the same time, maybe I'm typing something out on my laptop. And I'm trying to send an email to somebody, or you even, as I'm speaking to you. So all these things, all these are composite ways of transferring information, giving you the information, getting information from you in the process. So these are composite. Composite means there are so many kinds of things coming together. So communication is a composite information given and received. Given and received, as I've told you, it is usually incomplete if it is one-sided. I am trying to give you a certain kind of information, but you are unable to receive it or you are not interested in it, means communication has stopped halfway through. Your response comes to me after you have listened to it, understood it, then it will be complete. So given communication is a composite information given as well as received, and received out of what? Out of a learning experience. Whenever we are listening to somebody else, maybe we are learning something new, or looking at the world or thinking of the world in a new way. So it can be a part of a learning experience often. And in this, certain attitudes, knowledge, and skills change. As I told you, maybe you didn't have this bit of information at all. Or suppose you have a very strict teacher and your teacher tells you stand straight, sit straight. If you slouch, it is very bad for your spine. So earlier you might be slouching, and then now, because you have been told that this is bad for your spine, you're now absolutely straight. So your attitude, your level of knowledge, and your skill. Now, suppose you are running and your teacher tells you very clearly that this is the way in which you bend your body and then burst out of the block from which you are moving towards the track, etc. It will give you a lot of force when you begin, right? So your skills, the way you are doing things would change. So I'm just giving you very, very random examples from every kind of aspect of our lives. And yes, in this, certain attitudes, knowledge, and skills change. And what is happening basically? There is a sensitive interaction in terms of points of view. We have our opinions, etc., points of view. And what is the result? The result is ultimately we move towards a higher level of shared understanding. Shared understanding is very important because I understand you, but I don't want to accept what you're saying is not complete communication. If I understand you, and even if I don't like it, I can see the truth in your words, then perhaps we have reached a position of shared understanding and common intention. Now, this might not always be possible, but yes, if it is there, common intention, that what we want is the same thing. If we can reach that kind of a state of mind, then it is good. Now, in this class, my attempt is to make you understand right now what communication is and the various kinds of complex, the simple, whatever kind of definition we have. I'm trying to make you understand. And your intention is to understand this, learn about this. So we have two different kinds of intentions, but ultimately it is a part of a common intention, and the intention is to learn and understand. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Okay.
composite information means the various ways of conveying the messages.
Yes, not only the various ways of conveying the message, but maybe one bit of information can have various parts. Say, I am going to give you a picture, and suppose the picture has no captions, no words. That is one kind of visual communication. But suppose I give you the first page of a comic book, and there you have pictures and also words inside balloons, boxes. And therefore, you have verbal, and I'm also reading it out to you. So, verbal, non-verbal, visual, various kinds of things are involved in this giving and taking of information. Okay? So, that is why composite.
Ma'am, when various types of meanings are there to understand.
Definitely. That is why I was talking about if I'm trying to speak over the phone, at the same time I'm trying to send you an email and you send the reply immediately, that will also come into this kind of a situation.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So I think I will have to stop here today. My question is, how many students were actually there in my class? And if somebody could send me the screenshots before we leave, if somebody in their respective groups could take the screenshots and ultimately send this to me, it would be of great help. Of greater help would be the circulation of the recording of this class. Okay. So yes, thank you, Promila.
Ma'am, the
Uh,
recordings have been taken, like the screenshot has been taken of the attendance, ma'am. And it has been
okay,
already
very
been
good.
sent to the CRs.
Okay, okay. And you will also send me, yes, it's more than 500. Thank you so much. Now, at our end, the problem is that so far I have received names from Bhasha Bhavan, major part of Vidya Bhavan, BRS students, BSW students, Kala Bhavan, and Sangit Bhavan. But I am yet to receive the names of the students from Shikha Bhavan, for example, or if there are students from the Department of History, for example. I haven't received those names in the list I have been given so far. So we
Ma'am,
will
I
talk
am
about
from
it
history
later
department.
today. Hmm?
Ma'am, I am from history department.
Okay, so I really don't know why it has not reached me so far, and I think there are many students from various departments of Shikha Bhavan as well. So
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
I am from Shikha
wondering,
Bhavan.
yes, I am waiting for the entire list actually, right? But I'm just trying to let you know that yes, these are the names from the departments that I have received, and from these departments or bhavanas, I haven't received the names as yet. Okay, so maybe it will be sorted out in a day or two, but I might require your help in this matter as well. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. So we meet at 10:30 tomorrow, and you were trying to say something.
Yes, ma'am. Can you share the names?
Share the names of all the people that I have got so far.
Yes, ma'am. The list.
And what about the students' names that I haven't received? Shikha Bhavan, I haven't received at all so far.
Ma'am, from history
I
department, have
mean,
you received the names list?
no, I haven't. That is why I was trying to say that this would be necessary, perhaps.
Ma'am, can I
So we
send
will
you
go on
in
to
your
talk
mail?
about it tomorrow.
Ma'am, can I send you the names in your mail ID
Yes,
of history department?
yes, you can.
Okay, ma'am.
Not only the names, but I would also require your phone number and email. That will make
Okay,
it
ma'am.
easier for us to contact you at the time of the final semester exams,
Okay, ma'am.
right? And send, just a minute, send it in a Word file.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Send it in a Word file because it will be possible for us to use the Word file, not a PDF file. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much.
Okay.
Yes. Now you can go on to talk. Hmm? ইয়েস বিনয় ভবনের আমি এডুকেশনের কয়েকটা নাম পেয়েছি তোমরা বোধহয় সংখ্যায় খুব বেশি নও তাই না আমি আমি এডুকেশনের 7 জন স্টুডেন্টের নাম পেয়েছি 7 আচ্ছা গুগল ফর্মটার জন্য তো প্রাথমিকভাবে তোমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্টে তথা হচ্ছে গিয়ে তোমাদের ভবনে যোগাযোগ করতে হবে গুগল ফর্মটা কিন্তু আমরা পাঠাইনি এটা ভবন লেভেলের থেকে আমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্ট তথা ভবন লেভেলের থেকে আমাদের পাঠালে আমরা তবেই পাই ওকে 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 সো মিট ইউ অ্যাট 10:30 টুমরো
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you then bye bye
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.